And we're back. Today, we're going all the way back to the very origins of Dungeons and Dragons to discuss the Braunstein. What is it? Who made it? And why should you be running Braunsteins in your games? I want to start with what is a Braunstein so everybody's on the same page. A Braunstein is essentially just D&D. It's a special session where your players take control of high-level patrons, and these patrons will have goals that they're trying to accomplish during the event. They'll use resources like their armies and alliances, and maybe even a little bit of manipulation to defeat any who stand in their way. We'll break it down even further in just a moment, but first, let's rewind the clock all the way back to the early 70s. This is David Wesley, the creator of the Braunstein, the progenitor to D&D. He was a player and a game developer in the Twin Cities wargaming community with Dave Arneson and Gary Gygax before they spawned the legendary Blackmore campaign and eventually, of course, Dungeons and Dragons. We aren't going to do a full history lesson here, but you should absolutely watch the documentary, The Secrets of Blackmore, to learn all about how our beloved hobby came into being. The link is going to be down in the description. Mr. Wesley's Braunstein was a unique kind of game that introduced the world to the idea of role-playing as we know it today. The players in his game, they took control of different people in the town of Braunstein during an invasion, and Mr. Wesley acted as a referee during the scenario. Each player had different goals through negotiations with each other and orders that they discussed with the referee and the use of fog of war, which we'll get into later, the Braunstein played out in chaos and disorder, but the outcome was magic. Flash forward a few decades, and the tradition of Braunstein was mostly lost to us until the third most important person in D&D history, Jeffro Johnson, saved RPGs with his seminal work, How to Win at D&D. Jeffro dug deep into the ancient texts and he uncovered the traditions of gaming that were hidden right in plain sight. He discovered the principles of one-to-one time, miniature scaling, and the Braunstein. These aspects of play tap into the early culture of our hobby, and you should definitely buy his book if you're interested in learning more about these concepts. You may have seen my videos on these topics before. As you know, I believe these practices make for great, excellent Dungeons and Dragons. So, a link to his book is in the description. Check it out. It's worth your time. Now, back in February, on the This is Dundermoose YouTube channel, Dunder was interviewing B-Dubs, a leading voice in the Bro SR. B-Dubs challenged gamers to try what's called a Battle Braunstein, and to show their receipts before June to prove their gamer credentials. Now, it's a fun challenge, and I wanted to take part. But if you haven't already, let's stop for a second, go sub to Dundermoose, okay? This guy is one of the most authentic and nice bros on the web, and he definitely deserves your support. A link to his channel is also in the description. And that brings us up to date. And just in the nick of time, I'm getting my Braunstein in right at the end of May. And it's going to be an in-person event, just like in the days of David Wesley. So, for those of you who do follow the channel, you know that our patron Baron, he was assassinated and the duchy has been in chaos ever since. But the good king, Argus Bactal, he's going to step in. He's decided to bring peace back to the region by hosting a war game for his nobles. Whichever noble can score the most points during this war game, they get control of the duchy. So far, I have 7 patron players signed up to take on a role as one of these nobles who are vying for control of the duchy. Our Braunstein will be a Hunger Games styled event where the aristocratic nobles will be feasting and drinking in the safety of the castle, directing their troops through orders while their armies are slaughtering each other for control of the resources. I'm breaking it down into 2 parts. First, there's going to be the research phase. Before the in-person event, we're going to have 1 week of real time where the nobles can research secrets that are hidden on the map, which is right here, that if they control these resources, it will grant them advantages in the battle or just bonus points in the Hunger Games event. Examples of these will include like magic ley lines that will allow them to cast spells or targets to be assassinated, the location of enemy strongholds, all sorts of things. They're not going to have enough time to uncover all the secrets on the map, but they can learn just enough to get a strategy rolling so they're ready to go when the event actually starts. Now, that leads us to phase 2, the actual Braunstein in-person event. We're going to play out a week of game time during this 4-hour, maybe 5-hour in-person event. For every in-game day, each noble will move their army units to take control of a hex somewhere on the map. They can spread out their units as much or as little as they want, but only one army can occupy a hex at the end of the day. So, if there's more than one army present, there's going to be a mass combat between the soldiers, and the surviving army will be awarded the points for that hex. Mountain hexes we're going to put for 3 points each every day that you control one, due to like the precious mines and the metal ore that those mountains possess. If you control a hex with water resources on it, you're going to be awarded 2 points for every day you control it, because obviously water is the source of life. And for the forest, this is the most numerous, as you can see on the map, the most numerous of hexes. They're only going to be worth 1 point each, but they still provide that lumber, and everybody needs that. Points are awarded at the end of every game day and are displayed publicly. Now, before the army movement orders are submitted each game day, the patron nobles will be free to meet up, form alliances, and plot against the other factions. You're going to need a lot of space if you're going to do this in person, but luckily I've got plenty of rooms in my apartment for clandestine meetings, so there's going to be a level of distrust amongst the patrons that only secret dealings can generate. Now, pay attention, because this part is key. The location of the armies on the map and all of the orders will be hidden from other players. The patrons only know where their armies are, and they can only trust that their allies are doing as they promised with their units. This is called the fog of war, and it is essential to maintain this fog of war during all phases of the Braunstein. Patrons don't know if their alliance is held or if they were betrayed until after the submission of orders and the battle for the hex ensues. Whoever has the most points at the end of the Braunstein wins. Some of my patrons have already approached me with alternative objectives, and this is exactly what you want as the referee. As much player autonomy as possible. So, is this style the only way to run a Braunstein? No. There are infinite variations on this classic playstyle, but it's the one I'm going to cut my teeth on. I will be recording as much of the event as I possibly can, or as I reasonably can, and I hope to make a follow-up video to discuss the results. I'll also do a write-up for those of you who don't like videos and only like to read the Substack. I'm going to do that for you. But, I just want to say, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like, hit subscribe. We are making the content for you guys. If you like it, I'm going to keep making it. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.